Good day, you're watching Business World Live. I'm Danie, Laurel.
And I'm Delos Santos. Here are today's top stories. With the peso dropping to an all-time low against the dollar, Bangko Sentral Governor Felipe Medalla admits that he is concerned about the impact of the local currency's weakness on inflation.
The National Economic and Development Authority is soliciting inputs from stakeholders for the country's development plans.
In his first overseas trip since assuming office last June, President Bongbong Marcos lauds the contribution of overseas Filipino workers. The president is also scheduled to meet with the Indonesian President Joko Widodo.
And the local bourse expects the number of initial public offerings to reach a 26-year high this 2022. That's on the back of relaxed listing rules.
We begin our broadcast with inflation expected to have steadied in August on a month-on-month basis. A BusinessWorld poll of 13 analysts yielded a median estimate of 6.4% for last month's consumer price index, unchanged from the inflation print in July. This falls within the Bangko Sentral's forecast of 5.9 to 6.7% for August. Economists said lower pump prices and a reduction in power rates may have offset higher food costs. Meanwhile, Bangko Sentral Governor Felipe Medalla admitted that he is concerned about the impact of the peso's depreciation on inflation. But he said that the BSP rate hikes have helped stem the local currency's decline. The BSP has increased rates by 175 basis points since May. The peso closed at an all-time low of 56.77 against the greenback on Friday, September 2. This was 35 centavos weaker than its finish a day prior. For the year so far, the peso has weakened by 5 pesos and 77 centavos.
Economists are now concerned whether the government will be able to generate enough revenues to pay off its outstanding debts. This comes after national debt climbed to a new record high of 12.89 trillion pesos in July. Economists said the Marcos administration must narrow the budget deficit by intensifying revenue collection as well as implementing fiscal reforms and anti-corruption. This in turn would slow the growth of the government debt. They also recommend focusing the government's limited fiscal resources to social assistance and strategically located infrastructure projects. The country's outstanding debt is expected to rise to 13.43 trillion pesos by the end of 2022.
The National Economic and Development Authority announced that it will be gathering inputs from various stakeholders this month for the upcoming Philippine Development Plan, or PDP. The PDP will serve as guide for the country's development planning for 2023 to 2028. For this, the NEDA aims to solicit relevant inputs from stakeholders such as the youth, private sector, and planners. President Marcos has instructed the agency to accomplish the PDP before the year ends. The first leg of the Forum for the Youth will be conducted on September 9, followed by the Forum for the Private Sector on September 16. The last leg, focused on planners, will be held September 23rd. From inflation to debt, so much to digest as we start the work week. Good thing we have on the show Rosemarie Edillon, NEDA Undersecretary, to help us parse through all these issues. Good day, Undersecretary Edillon. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning to you and to all the viewers.
Okay, first things first, national debt ballooning to another record high here, 12.89 trillion pesos. Should we be worried? Are we growing fast enough, so much so that we actually have enough in our arsenal to repay debt while also providing social services?
Yeah, actually the concern is if we are growing fast enough to repay our debts. And for the first half of the year, actually we are really on track on meeting our growth target for the year of between 6.5% to 7.5%. So we are on our way to recovery. So what is really important is one, to keep the economy growing, and then to steer back the economy on a high growth path.
Usec, let's talk about the poverty levels. Your government target right now is 9% by 2028. How realistic is that? How much of an uphill climb is this, especially on the back of recovery from the pandemic? How much pushback did we have from the previous targets?
Yes, thank you for the question. Between 2015 and 2018, we were able to bring down poverty incidence from 23.7 to 16.7. So that's about 7 percentage points. Sorry. Yeah, 6 percentage points. And actually, that's about 6 million more Filipinos that were taken out of poverty. Now, between 2018 and 2021, so the year of the pandemic, we saw 2.3 million more Filipinos who became poor, meaning of those 6 million who graduated out of poverty, so there were 2.3 million actually who slid back to poverty. So for us, and we also looked at the different trends across the regions, where we saw that in certain regions where there was really economic activity and there was really programs to assist the poor, the poverty actually went down. So it's still the same. It's still the same strategy. No, make sure that the economic activity really is very vibrant, and that the poor are able to participate in this economic activity. And so between 2021 and 2028, so that's a period of 7 years, we're targeting a 9 percentage point reduction. So we think that this is very doable, provided that we remain on track in terms of economic recovery, in terms of accelerating that growth path, in terms of addressing the scarring due to COVID-19.
Ma'am, apart from hopefully we're out of the pandemic, but now the problem is inflation and the soaring prices eating into consumers' pockets, not just domestically but also offshore. So the remittances might also take a hit in terms of consumption. How can we manage expectations in terms of people getting out of poverty in the short term while inflation is very high?
It's in the short term. It really has to be a mix of government assistance, especially to the most vulnerable, and we're looking at ensuring food security for the most vulnerable, and that is why. In terms of programming, we have actually for the year, we have allotted funds for the farmers, the fisher folks, and also for yung ating mga poor na kababayans, may assistance for them. Now, in terms of the remittances, our experience has been that this is kind of counter-cyclical actually. So as you know, the demand for our OFWs has remained very robust, and so we think that is something that will again tide us through this coming months. But hopefully very, very soon we can see domestic demand really picking up, and of course more importantly the domestic production really becoming very more productive.
And since we're already tackling inflation, I mean, you already touched on that topic, providing assistance, of course, to our farmers and local fisher folk. But what's going to be the short-term and the long-term strategy here in addressing supply woes and soaring prices of various agricultural products? We're not just talking about sugar. Now you have concerns like onion and salt even. And how are you going to address this, especially given, of course, based from the language that we've heard from the President so far, it seems to be gearing more towards domestic production over importation?
Yes, actually, the longer term solution is really to improve the productivity of our agricultural sector, and then increase the linkages between agriculture and the rest of the economy. So actually, for our Philippine Development Plan, we are looking at developing more of the agri-industry linkages, and we actually want to be very deliberate in this one. Previously, our targets have to do with increasing the gross value added of agriculture, but now we will be looking at indicators that is really about the like I said, the linkages. It's really about the farm to plate, so that we also consider the logistics costs. We also consider the storage facilities, the processing facilities, that it should be there. So we have to look at the availability, the affordability, accessibility of the food products at the market, or for the consumers themselves.
Ma'am, can we discuss the parameters of poverty you're using? Because 8.3 thousand per month, so 8,300 pesos per month is the food poverty threshold for a family of 5. You're saying, you want to bring it down by 9%, still double digit. But when you look at the surveys, more people feel poor, diba? They consider themselves poor, even if that's not in the poverty threshold of the NEDA. Should the numbers be updated, and how can you explain this discrepancy between feeling poor and actually being defined as food poor?
Yes, you have actually aptly described the different dimensions of poverty. No? We have what we call the income poverty, and that is what we are measuring. Ito yung means poverty. You have the outcomes poverty. But this is very difficult to measure because this is very multidimensional. Although we are still measuring that, we have the multidimensional poverty index. And then we have the self-rated poverty, which is SWS is the one that is closely monitoring that. Now, this one is also very subjective. And so if you have to monitor your accomplishment, it will have to be on the basis of a metric that is robust, that you can compare over time and across space. And that's the reason why we are using income poverty as a measure of our accomplishment with respect to poverty reduction. But that is not to say that we are not also looking at the other dimensions of poverty. Like I said, we actually report the multidimensional poverty index during the times that we do not have the family income and expenditure survey. So and that is also how we design the different interventions to make sure that we are also addressing the different outcomes related to poverty.
Of course, when we're talking about poverty, we also have to talk about employment figures here. I mean, when do you expect numbers to at least go back to pre-pandemic levels, or are you expecting that to worsen next year? I do believe that we are expecting a more stream of graduates from the K-12 program by 2023. Do we actually have enough jobs for them?
Yeah, that's right. No? For next year, actually for the next 2 years, we are expecting an influx of labor market entrants, and this is really because of the K-12 graduates from 2018, I believe, and then who went to university. So they will be, and then some of them actually graduated already this year, but we think that there will still be a continuous stream over the next 2 years.
How much of an increase is that from the usual average that we have, by the way?
We're looking at something like a 1.5 million entrants by next year. Over the past years, I think 4 or 5 years, even including the pandemic, our new entrants to the labor market number only about 600,000. Again, it's really because of the K-12 and then the free tuition fee in the SUCs, and therefore they were encouraged to first go to school. And now they'll be in the labor market. So what we have actually proposed is for the expansion of many of the reskilling and retooling programs of the TESDA, and there's also the DTI, and there's also the CHED. For some of them, I think it will make what we have been actually encouraging the new graduates is for them to acquire what we call micro credentials. This is also a way of addressing the fact that they were under an online or a blended learning this past 2 years. So it will actually it will actually be to their advantage to to enroll in this micro credentials programs that are being offered by the TESDA. But what is good here is if we are really able to take advantage of this, a bigger labor force, then we can actually have a faster growth rate, probably towards the latter part of the year, and then towards next year. Right now, we are in transition, and we recognize that, and therefore, I think the more strategic in program is really more of the reskilling and retooling program.
All right. And finally, Usec, on the topic of economic growth, when do you expect the growth numbers to be real growth? So not because of low base year effects and net of inflation. When can you say, or at what point can you say that we are actually experiencing growth levels, or at least return to high growth levels as pre-pandemic?
Actually, if you look at the pre-COVID levels, our performance now versus the pre-COVID levels, for many sectors, we are already either above that or nearing that. There's just some sectors that have remained below pre-pandemic. So like your transport, your accommodation, your recreation, the other services, even education and healthcare. So if we see these sectors already bouncing to their pre-COVID levels, then that's when we can say that we're back to where we were. But even that, we think we should be targeting for a faster growth rate, because we need to catch up on those lost growth opportunities, and therefore actually next year will be a very crucial year for us. It's really about addressing the scarring, catching up.
As well as paying back, of course, the ballooning debt amounts. And like you mentioned, retooling and a focus on improving the poverty levels there. Thank you so much, NEDA Undersecretary for National Development Policy and Planning, Rosemarie Edillon.
Thank you.
Now let's pause for a quick break, but coming right up after that. Aboitiz Infracapital is set to take over the operations of the Mactan Cebu International Airport after Megawide and its Indian partner have decided to divest their stake from the MCIA.
More of that and other stories when Business World Live returns. Stay with us.
You're still watching Business World Live here on One News. I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Danie at Laurel. Now, with his first state visit to Indonesia, President Bongbong Marcos aims to prove that OFWs will be a priority under his administration.
Notably missing from the president's agenda, however, is the case of alleged drug mule Mary Jane Veloso. Maricel Halili with the report.
President Bongbong Marcos kicked off his inaugural state visit by meeting the Filipino community in the Indonesian capital of Jakarta. Here, the president was met with a rousing welcome.
PBBM! PBBM!
The mood at the Fairmont Hotel was similar to that of the president's pre-election rallies a few months ago.
Basta kasama ang mga Pilipino, masaya talaga, ano? Nakuha pati yung kanta ko. Yung unang nakanta, lumabas siguro sa social media ito. Ito yung kinanta ko ng birthday ng aking minamahal na asawa. At saka yung mga kanta namin sa mga rally.
During his speech, the president announced that the Department of Migrant Workers would become fully operational by the first quarter of 2023. This, he says, is meant to ensure that the welfare and rights of overseas workers, including the 7,400 Filipinos in Indonesia, will be protected.
I, together with the cabinet, are fully committed to making sure that every Filipino's economic, social, and cultural potential are fully realized in our own country. Nang sa ganun, ay masasabi natin na makakamtan din natin ang ating pangarap na kung magkaroon pa ng OFW, ito ay hindi dahil na kayo'y napilitang umalis ng Pilipinas, kundi dahil ninanais ninyong pumunta sa mas magandang pwesto.
With this visit, President Marcos hopes to prove that OFWs will be prioritized under his administration. The president's official agenda, however, did not include the case of alleged drug mule Mary Jane Veloso, who remains on Indonesia's death row. Veloso was spared from execution in 2015 following the arrest of her recruiters here in the Philippines. Veloso has been in detention in Indonesia since 2010. According to the initial schedule distributed to the media delegation, President Marcos will not visit Veloso.
It's always an issue. Perhaps it will be broached by both parties, by one or both parties. We'll have to see. I understand since it's a pending issue, it may be inescapable, but we will announce if it is taken up.
President Marcos also made no mention of Veloso's case in his speech before the Filipino community on Sunday, September 4th. What is clear so far is that the Department of Foreign Affairs will take the lead on the case.
It will be the Department of Foreign Affairs that will be taking the lead, primarily for two reasons. One, it has the institutional memory and knowledge from the start of the case until today. And second, and I'm pretty sure Secretary Trixie will agree with me on the importance of speaking with one voice on a case that has such very sensitive dimensions.
Meanwhile, after leading a wreath-laying ceremony at the Kalibata National Heroes Memorial Park, President Marcos Jr. will meet with his Indonesian counterpart Joko Widodo at the Bogor Presidential Palace later today. The two leaders are expected to discuss issues that will strengthen the bilateral relations between the Philippines and Indonesia. They will also witness the signing of agreement on the fields of defense and security, as well as cultural exchanges and a comprehensive plan for the next 5 years. Afterwards, President Marcos will proceed to a roundtable discussion with business leaders in Indonesia. He is also set to visit the Istiqlal Mosque and Jakarta Cathedral. The president will stay here in Jakarta until Tuesday, September 6th, before flying to Singapore for his second state visit. Reporting from Jakarta, Indonesia, for News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
The Energy Department is expecting fuel prices to drop this week following the big-time price hike last Tuesday. According to Rino Abad, director of the Energy Department's Oil Industry Management Bureau, prices of gasoline are seen to go down by 2 pesos and 50 centavos per liter, while both diesel and kerosene could see a price cut of over a peso per liter. Speaking to 1PH, Abad says it's not just global oil supply that's driving price movements. He says the policy rate review set in Europe and the interest rate decision in the U.S. will both heavily affect global price movements of fuel. Oil firms are expected to announce official price adjustments today, which will take effect tomorrow.
Last Saturday, bigla nag-pronounce na ang European Central Bank na magkakaroon sila ng policy rate review na naman uli. Kasama na po, sumunod ka agad Tuesday last week yung US. At dito'y automatiko na nakita natin kung sila po ang nagkukos ng grabing consumption dun sa fuel. Alam natin na pag nag-announce sila ng ganito ay malakihan din po ang impact dun sa market, sa oil market. Sana po bumaba na po talaga ang fuel demand.
Now, the Bureau of Customs has exceeded its monthly target collection for the 8th month in a row. The BOC says it collected 78.9 billion in August. This is a little over 34% higher than its target. The agency attributes this to the digitalization and streamlining of its processes, as well as the rise in imports following the reopening of the economy. The BOC's collection in the 8 months to August hit 559 billion pesos, surpassing its target by 35.6%.
Megawide and its partner, India's GMR Airports International, are divesting their stakes in Mactan Cebu International Airport. Aboitiz Infra Capital will be taking over and will eventually operate the airport. The transaction involves the issuance of Megawide and its partners' primary shares, as well as the transfer of secondary shares to Aboitiz amounting to 9.5 billion pesos. In a statement, Megawide says it will use the proceeds from the sale to build at least 10 land transport terminals and enter new ventures, including data centers. As for Aboitiz, the firm says it's setting its sights on developing other regional airports pending approval from the NEDA. The company has proposed to develop and operate the new Bohol International Airport, as well as to upgrade and operate the Laguindingan International Airport.
The number of initial public offerings or IPOs this year could reach a 26-year high. That's according to the Philippine Stock Exchange. Now, as of September, there have been 8 IPOs in 2022. That's the same number for the entire 2021. But the PSE sees at least 3 more companies making their market debut before the year ends. According to the PSE, this is a result of relaxed listing rules as well as the repealed IPO tax under the Bayanihan Law. While it is far from the record 21 in 1994, the PSE hopes it will put an end to the annual single-digit IPOs since 1997.
All right, let's see if that comes to fruition.
3 more.
Yes, and those are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate front today. I'm Jess Delos Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel. We are One News, all sides, all the time. Don't go away. We'll give you the latest on the local bourse. When Business World Live returns, stay with us.
And you're still watching Business World Live. Now, Dan, the peso slid to another record low, but Governor Medalla is still confident.
Okay, but look at this, Jess. I mean, I just have to break this that we are now 56.915, just, almost where everyone might say it might fall to 57 by the year end, probably closer than or sooner than expected. That was from Natixis. Of course, we had the trade deficit as well coming out yesterday, and that, of course, was a record high in the month of June. Exports have been dragged down because of the weakening economy over in China, which is our main export partner. But like you mentioned, as Governor Medalla did say he was concerned on the impact of inflation. But he says, and take a look at this chart here, we're actually far from the most depreciated. But if you take a look, we're just 2 down compared to at least the others in the Asian basket. Now, just let's take a quick peek at how our index is moving this morning. We're actually down a touch by 0.05%. This actually happens on the back of Friday rising. We were the biggest gainer in Asia, and this according to Jonathan Rovelas. This weakening peso apparently might have been the reason why investors or foreign investors started picking up some stocks because it became cheaper for them to do so. And of course, let's take a look at some of the performers. You've got Semirara leading the charge this morning, up by 1 9/10%, followed by Alliance Global and Jollibee. And I did want to take a peek at those two airport-related stocks. Megawide, take a look at that, Jess. In the past 3 days, jumping by 16.6% here. Now going down a touch, but nevertheless still quite some gains after that sale or pending sale of MCIA to Aboitiz. And take a look at Aboitiz, flattish here, but nevertheless also on the uptrend as yesterday, Jess.
No, but even with all that volatility, Dan, one asset management company is looking to triple its size. Tell us more.
Exactly. I did want to take a look at BPI, which is, going against the tide. It's up by 0.5%. This on the back of them saying that they have a trust unit. Of course, it's managing assets, and they're looking at managing 3 trillion pesos by 2026. That's actually more than 3 times. Now it has 900 billion pesos in assets under management. They're trying to woo more investors to invest in equities, even amid the challenging market conditions, Jess. So something to watch out for here. More investments and growth, of course, in those trust funds, Jess.
But of course, still the big story, peso, something you have to keep track
57
of. And that's it
almost.
for today, September 5, 2022. Join us again tomorrow at exactly 9:30 a.m. You can also catch us on Signal Play. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News Live anytime, anywhere. I'm Jess de Los Santos.
And I'm Danie Laurel. Mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. We are One News, all sides, all the time.